Welcome to Ben on Breaking News. I'm Ben Meiselas, and we're talking about breaking news. Let's get into it, folks. It's been a busy day here at the MeidasTouch Network. I interviewed Governor Walz of Minnesota. I interviewed Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries. I did 4 other interviews as well with different candidates who are running for office at state and federal levels. Have done a lot of videos that we've released today. I did an interview before, actually with TMZ of all places, where they were asking me about my view of the Department of Homeland Security sending ICE agents to the Super Bowl. And while that's not a typical audience I would speak in front of, to be blunt, I think it's important, especially right now, to break through some other potential echo chambers where you're seeing that Americans, whether you're Democrat, Republican, or independent, are not supporting what Donald Trump is doing on mostly all issues at this point. A new Reuters Ipsos poll shows that Donald Trump's overall approval is absolutely in the gutter right now. It's like at historic lows. Donald Trump's overall approval is at 38%. Trump's approval on immigration, which is supposed to be his strongest issue, which I never thought was the case. And I always found it ridiculous when people are like, Republicans, it's immigration and the economy. I'm like, they're the worst on these issues. But Donald Trump's immigration approval now falls to a record low of 39%. And by far, a majority of Americans are saying that Donald Trump's ICE and Border Patrol, Gestapo are going way too far. I thought it was important that I deliver that message there. But most importantly, I want to keep delivering the message here to the Meidas Mighty, and we'll keep growing this channel together. In addition to doing all of the interviews we did today, just a reminder, we've been expanding our Washington, D.C. bureau. I've heard that since the MeidasTouch Washington, D.C. bureau launched, where we are making sure that Democratic Congress members are showing up to vote on these important issues. There's been like 100% attendance right now on the House since we built our Washington, D.C. bureau, because our reporters have been saying who's voting and who's not voting on these existential issues. And Pablo Manriquez and his team on Capitol Hill, working for the MeidasTouch D.C. bureau, have done incredible work there. Shout out to them. We have reporters in Nuuk, Greenland right now. Ken Harba and his team are out in Nuuk and we posted that to our Substack, getting you exclusive coverage and firsthand responses from people in Greenland about what's actually going on there. And we have an on-the-ground team through our partnership with Status Quo News in Minneapolis and St. Paul. And they've been reporting on the ground there, streaming here on the MeidasTouch YouTube channel. And so as this network has continued to grow in 2026, we've been building out all of these pieces thanks to all of your support. And I'm proud of the expansion of our team. And I hope you feel that we are doing justice right now for you. Katie Fang is also in Minneapolis right now doing on-the-ground reporting with the MeidasTouch network. So shout out to Katie Fang as well. And then we get to do things here like linking Katie Fang with Status Quo, or we find out that a Congress member like Ro Khanna is going to be in there in Minneapolis. We could link him with Status Quo and get you lots of different perspectives by making all of these connections. So anyway, I wanted to put that out at the top. Let's get into breaking news. The new show is called Ben on Breaking News, although I may have just made that up, but that's the title, but I'm going to run with it. Ben on Breaking News. Donald Trump's in Iowa right now, and he's holding a rally there. Why is he holding a rally in Iowa? He's going to be talking about how great he thinks things are for Iowa farmers, how great he thinks the economy is doing for people in Iowa, how much better their health care is. And unless you are completely delusional or you are in a cult, which I'm sure there's going to be people there, all of those things aren't happening in Iowa, and they're not happening in the rest of the country right now. So that's why Donald Trump's in Iowa. he's been doing these bizarre rallies at like small casinos, right? He did one in Pennsylvania at a casino there. I think it was the Mount Airy Casino. He did one at like a really small venue in North Carolina. Low energy speeches. He makes the weird noises. My health is great. Cognitive exams. Greenland, Greenland, Canada. Blah, blah. You know, it's usually that crap. No, but the American people are sick and tired of it. And the American people are sick and tired of Trump's ICE and Border Patrol Gestapo. I mean, the very fact that I was being asked about whether I thought ICE was going to be inside the stadium during the Super Bowl or outside the stadium terrorizing people. The fact that that's even a question, I pointed out when I was being interviewed, doesn't that tell you everything? All of our constitutional rights are being trampled on by this regime. Every one of them. And the ones that the MAGAs claim they cared about the most. Oh, I'm a First Amendment absolutist. I'm for free speech. Okay, well, there are people protesting and saying, ICE, get out of Minneapolis. Whoa, whoa, whoa. You can't do that. The MAGA Republicans are like, we're Second Amendment absolutists. That right will not be infringed. The right to bear arms. Hey, MAGA, question for you. In the Second Amendment, it says well-regulated militias. So should there be any regulations like, I don't know, not having AR-15s near schools to maybe stop school shootings, or maybe enhance background checks to make it more difficult for maniacs to get their hands on weapons? No, the Second Amendment lets us do anything we want. Just watch us. And then like the MAGA cult members march into the Michigan Capitol building over the past years, remember? And they'd have their ARs out and they go, look how tough we are. Second Amendment. Yeah. Okay, well, Alex Pretty was someone who supported the Second Amendment. He had a lawful permit to have a concealed carry handgun, which was properly concealed where it was allowed to be. By the way, I believe in Minnesota, it doesn't even have to be concealed, but he had the permit to conceal carry. The weapon, the gun, was removed from the holster by Trump's Border Patrol Gestapo. They bludgeoned him. They basically pistol whipped him. They pepper sprayed him because he was helping out a female protester, and then they executed him. And then they said, he shouldn't have brought a gun. He shouldn't have concealed carry. The fact that he carried a gun showed, even though it was concealed carry and he had a permit and he didn't brandish it, he's a domestic terrorist. Terrorist. He was there to massacre the Border Patrol and ICE Gestapo. This was a massacre we avoided. That's not what happened. That's not what happened at all. And if there was any way to actually read the Second Amendment of how it's supposed to be carried out, it's the way Alex Pretty was someone who was following the Second Amendment. And I haven't really heard any politicians speak so negatively about the Second Amendment as these MAGAs, right? I've never heard Democrats say. Could you imagine if Democrats were saying any of these things that the MAGAs were saying? He shouldn't have had a gun. He's not allowed to have guns. Could you imagine? And that's the thing. We'll cover all of this on the MeidasTouch show today on Ben on Breaking News. But you can't actually have logical debates and discussions with these MAGA people. They're not engaged in good faith, in logic. And so if you're trying to, in good faith, understand positions, these MAGAs are just shapeshifters. Or another way to say it is they're just liars. They're liars. They just make things up in order to hoist up an authoritarian regime that terrorizes people and sucks up the wealth and hands it over to Trump, Trump's family, and right-wing oligarchs. That's what all of this is about. Stealing your money, ruining your life. You know how like in the supervillain movies, the supervillain it often like sucks up all of the energy so that they can have it all for themselves, right? That's kind of the plot of a lot of the movies with the bad guys in superhero movies. That's all it is. It's taking away all of your resources because it's never enough for these people. It's not enough that Jeff Bezos is worth $500 billion. He wants to be the first trillionaire. It's not enough for them. And so Jeff Bezos now funds Melania Trump's movie, gives her $40 million for a movie that nobody wants to see. The Melania movie, if you look at the theaters that it's in right now across the country, because not only did Bezos give Melania $40 million, but he's also doing a marketing, promotional, and theatrical release for another $30 to $40 million. So he's like $80 million in on this. The theaters are having this Melania movie there. It's like 1 seat per theater or 3 seats per theater. Nobody wants to watch this movie. We've been following this and tracking this on the MeidasTouch network. And it's often somebody who buys the seat like in an exit row. And I swear the people who are buying the seats are just doing it like probably to mock the whole thing and to take a photo that it's empty, but who the hell knows? But Bezos is doing that, right? You have Melania making posts about the party in the White House that she had over the weekend, while American citizens are being murdered, while people in this country are being sent to concentration camps and made to dress like they're in the freaking Squid Games. Y'all see this? This is in the Delhi Detention Center in Texas. They dress the people up, the migrants up, and who knows if there are citizens there, in like Squid Game outfits, in the most horrific conditions where, 7 to 9 people have already died in detention centers, in addition to the killings of people like Renee Nicole Good and Alex Pretty. You've had all of these deaths at the detention center. Last year it was over 30. It may even be more. Then the Trump Gestapo lies about it. They're like, someone died by suicide. And then you have to wait to the autopsy. Like, no, somebody strangled them. It seems like an ICE Gestapo strangled the person. And I mean, you had these individuals who were at these migrant detention centers, concentration camps, screaming at that one in Texas. And we've seen this in other places. Help us. Help us. Get us out of here. Help us. There's some drone footage above capturing that. Please save us. I mean, that's what's happening in the United States of America right now. But Melania is out there with Tim Cook and all these people out there, these right-wing oligarchs at the White House debuting the Melania movie while Americans are suffering, while Americans are being psychologically tortured, living paycheck to paycheck, if they're lucky enough to have a paycheck, while their CEOs are making 10,000x what they are making, and they can do an honest day's work, but they can't afford a home. You can't afford health care. You can't afford education. You can't afford groceries. That's if you're getting a paycheck, because also we know that long-term jobless rates are basically at all-time highs in modern history right now. We know that the dollar is absolutely tanking right now, although Donald Trump's like, the dollar's doing great. The dollar's doing horrible right now. And I'll tell you, go back and look at the interview I did with Professor Justin Wolfers over at the University of Michigan. He's an economics professor. And he's like, the long-term damage of what Trump has done with the United States, which used to be the envy of the world in terms of its economy, a place where other countries viewed was a stable place to bring money into. Just look at what's happening right now. And as Professor Wolfers points out, we won't even know the future Googles or the future Apples or the future entrepreneurs who could build big corporations and big companies and make big, big differences here, who aren't going to come here anymore. The inventors, the scientists, the doctors, all, not just monetary wealth, intellectual knowledge, science, all being destroyed. And that's going to fall on future generations. And Professor Wolfer said, Ben, there's a message that we can get out here is don't even focus on the next quarter. Because really, Trump's trying to manipulate the next quarter. He goes, focus on what's happening on a systemic basis. Because we see it. If we open up our eyes, we see a shifting of the global order, whether it's Canada with trans-Pacific partnerships now with China and its transatlantic relationships with the EU announcing what Ursula von der Leyen, who's the president of the European Union Commission, calls the mother of all trade deals with India, right? Donald Trump attacked India. Donald Trump attacks EU. EU-India create a free trade zone, which was 20 years in the making that they said, all right, we got to do this. EU making trade deals with South America. We're seeing all of this form right now as a result of Donald Trump selling out our allies, Donald Trump sucking up to Putin. He's a Putin bootlicker. Donald Trump wakes up a few days ago and he's like, okay, 100% tariffs on Canada today. We're doing that. It's 100% tariffs on Canada today, which would be a massive story, other than the fact that then the Trump regime murders Alex Pretty. And so that becomes a big focus. And then you have Donald Trump and people like Scott Bessent and other sycophants in the Trump cabinet once again lie and once again say, oh, we spoke with Prime Minister Carney and he apologized to Donald Trump. Prime Minister Carney said that he's so sorry, Donald, for what he said in Davos. He didn't mean any of those things. And that's what Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said, to which Prime Minister Carney basically laughed at that and said, I didn't walk back any of my statements. When I talked to Donald Trump, I said word for word, let me be absolutely clear, Donald. I meant every word I said in Davos, is what Carney told the CBC. Now, who do you believe? Prime Minister Carney or Donald Trump? Obviously, Prime Minister Carney. It's not even close, right? We all know Donald Trump's lying. But let me give you another one. Who do you believe? Xi Jinping or Donald Trump? Who do you think is more truthful? Xi Jinping or Donald Trump? Can you believe that we've gotten to a place in American history right now where most people would answer that question? I believe Xi Jinping more than Donald Trump. Absolutely. You know, that's wild that in the United States, the words of Donald Trump do not matter at all. So let me show you what's happening in Iowa right now. Here's what's going on. A reporter asked Donald, do you agree with the assessment from some of your own officials that Alex Pretty is a domestic terrorist? Let's play this clip.
One number that's bad? Can you tell? Is there one number that's bad? There's not one.
Do you agree with the assessment from some of your own officials that Alex Pretty is a domestic terrorist or an assassin?
Well, I haven't heard that, but certainly he shouldn't have been carrying a gun. But hey, look, bottom line, everybody in this room, we view that as a very unfortunate incident, okay? Right. Everyone, unless you're a stupid person, very, very unfortunate incident. I don't like that he had a gun. I don't like that he had 2 fully loaded magazines. That's a lot of bad stuff. And despite that, I say that's a very unfortunate.
Again, can you imagine the outrage if a Democratic president said that? Could you imagine the outrage? And by the way, Jeremy, do we have that guy on Newsmax who was like, the cell phone was a gun. The cell phone looked like a gun. That's what they're going with on state regime media. Let's play this clip.
I want to show you something. Does that look like a gun? I think it does a little bit. It's a phone. It's black, like most phones. That's crazy stuff.
The hell are you talking about? But by the way, these are all the people when former President Biden would say we need common sense gun reform after school shootings, maybe more extensive background checks to make sure these maniacs, these terrorists don't get their hands on semi-automatic weapons or other weapons of war or other weapons generally. Maybe we should do something. I don't know. Can we broaden our common sense gun control to deal with more extensive limitations on maybe the training that you have to go through if you get a war weapon? We don't want to take it away from you, but if this is something that you're passionate about and you're an enthusiast, you should be willing to go through more paperwork and more training. Heck, in the United States military, for those who are in the military, you know this, right? And I've spoke to Adrian Fontes, who used to teach at the military training academies when he was in the military. He showed me a big book and the tests and exams that you had to pass for you to handle these weapons of war. But in a civilian context, there's no common sense reform. In the military, you need to study and take exams before holding these types of weapons. In civilian, we'll just give it to anybody. But that's where these MAGAs are like, you're treading on me. I want to take the semi-automatic and I want to walk around and intimidate Governor Whitmer of Michigan. Yeah, Second Amendment, ha. Okay, well, what about Alex Pretty? He had a gun. Yeah, but he had a lawful permit to conceal. Shouldn't have done it. He shouldn't have done what? Shouldn't have been at the protest. Well, the First Amendment, he's not allowed to peacefully protest. Isn't your whole point about the Second Amendment also that it's there to protect against encroachments, being treaded on by the government, by authoritarian? Isn't that your whole belief in that why there's a Second Amendment? But it looks like a cell phone. The gun looked like a cell phone. What are you talking about? No, it didn't. And he wasn't brandishing a gun. I just want to deal with the objective facts here. Like, what I'm saying shouldn't be a Democratic position or a Republican position or an independent. It should just be, this is what the Constitution says. Like, what are we talking about here? I was talking to my dad yesterday about the absolute immunity ruling by the Supreme Court that I think is one of the main reasons that got us here in the first place. Notice it takes the Supreme Court, over a year or close to a year to rule on Donald Trump's unlawful tariffs against the world. What's the point of having a Supreme Court or courts in general if the executive branch could violate the law and then it takes a year for the Supreme Court to even make a ruling about it? Just taking your time. Like, shouldn't this be the most obvious answer from the Supreme? I'm a law professor. Like, Article 1 says the power of the purse and the power of taxation is with Congress. A tariff is a tax. The president can't infringe on Article 1. There, Article 2, to faithfully execute the laws of Congress. There's no law, so there's nothing to faithfully execute. End of story. What are we waiting on with the Supreme Court's ruling on their tariffs against the world? It's clearly unlawful. But I'll tell you, even at this point, if the Supreme Court rules against Donald Trump's tariffs against the world, which I still think they're going to do, they've already let him get away with it for a year. So the damage already has been done. The whole purpose of the court is to stop the violations of the law. And they allowed it to happen. And now, as Professor Wolfers described to us, and I'm going to have him on more, generational damage has been done. But wow, the Supreme Court was sure very quick to give Donald Trump absolute immunity. As I was talking to my pops about it, I said, absolute immunity. The whole country was founded on the idea that absolute immunity doesn't exist. Our whole Constitution, preceded by the Declaration of Independence, with a list of grievances, is against kings. That's the whole point of what we're doing here. We don't want absolute immunity. So when the Supreme Court gives absolute immunity to a criminal, to a sexual abuser, who's found civilly liable for sexual abuse, but he was on videotape bragging about grabbing women by their vaginas because he says, you're rich, you get away with it, and saying that he can inspect girls naked at beauty pageants because you're an inspector if you own the pageants. By the way, who the hell as a grown man owns beauty pageants and then you go in and you inspect the girls? Shouldn't that be disqualifying? But anyway, I could go a whole thing about Trump's cover-up of the Epstein files. But the whole system is based on no absolute immunity. So if you give that to a criminal, to a predator, to a fraud, what do you think they're going to do? What do you think they're going to do? That's what criminals do. That's why we have prisons. And just think about it. In Brazil, the Brazil Supreme Court threw Bolsonaro in prison for 20 plus years. Their highest court said, you're done. And then when Bolsonaro was speaking to Trump and trying to escape from Brazil, the Supreme Court called the cops, arrested him, threw him in prison. The moment the Supreme Court learned that Bolsonaro was colluding with Trump to try to get out of Brazil. That's what happened in Brazil. That's what their Supreme Court did. But in the United States, our Supreme Court says you get absolute immunity. It's like, if you go there, then what's the point of the Constitution if there's an out? If the Constitution has an exception, unless you're the president, then what's the point of the document? Donald Trump is someone who's ripped to shreds contracts his entire life. That's what he's done. He's broken contracts, broken deals. He's not a man of his word. He is a man of fraud. That's what he's done his entire life. So now you give that person a provision that says, but if you just say, I'm the president, you don't have to follow any of these things. Then what's the point of all of these things to begin with? Imagine if you entered into a contract with someone, would you agree to a provision that says, here are the terms, except if the other party doesn't want to listen to the terms? And of course you wouldn't. So to me, it's the most simple stuff sometimes. And why am I talking about this on a breaking news show? Because I want to talk about this stuff, but sometimes we need to just pull back and we need to look at a 30,000 view, not the day-to-day breaking news sometimes, but like, why are we talking about this? Why? Like, why does this matter? What is happening here? Right. And I know sometimes it's like the blocking and tackling of day-to-day, news reporting, and it's ballroom this, and now he wants a golden arts, and he's threatening Greenland, and now he's building hotels in Saudi Arabia, and now Trump ICE Gestapo killed people, and now what else is he doing? He's threatening Canada again. What else is he doing? The House of Representatives, they're on vacation again, and now there's going to be another government shutdown, and healthcare is being ripped away. Where do I look? Where do I look? Sometimes we just gotta step back, and we gotta look at it from 30,000 feet up, and we gotta say, what are we doing here? What's the point of this? Is this what government is supposed to be? Is the point of government to bully and to steal and to take and to torture and to inflict pain and to aggrandize a wannabe authoritarian who admires Vladimir Putin? Is that the purpose of a government? Or is the purpose of a government to protect us, not to cause harm, to protect our health care, to give health care? That should be a human fundamental right. This regime takes away our health care. They take away Medicaid. They take away the Affordable Care Act subsidies. They take when they should protect our right to live. Health care, education. If people are out there working a job, you shouldn't have to work 2 jobs. If you work 1 job, you should be able to, 1, work that job with dignity, be able to have vacations, be able to have a life outside of work, not be a slave to a corporation. And for your work, you should be compensated and be able to afford a home and not worry, am I going to be able to pay my rent? Do I have to choose between rent and food? And then childcare? What happens with my kids? The psychological torture should not exist. And by the way, no matter what you think of Mayor Mamdani in New York City, who I happen to like a lot, but notice what he's doing. He's shoveling snow with the people. He's out there every day communicating. Here's what I want to do to help. The first act was working with Governor Hochul to expand childcare services to people of New York and to make it free for certain people in New York. Hundreds of thousands of people get free childcare. That's what the government should be doing. They shouldn't be beating down on marginalized communities or persons with disability. They should be lending a hand and helping people. That's what it's like. That's my point. The government should be fighting with us, for us, not against us. And every day, this cruel and unusual regime wakes up with plans to cause us pain. And then they're sociopaths, so they try to justify it by this covers up this and covers up that and covers up that. And we've all kind of discussed it. Well, they're covering up a child sex trafficking ring, and now they're talking about invading Greenland in order to cover up the fact that they're covering up a child sex trafficking. And now they're invading Minnesota with 3,000 ICE and Border Patrol Gestapo to cover up that they're covering up in Greenland invasion, to cover up the cover up over the child sex trafficking ring, cover up over the Epstein files. And they're also covering up the war crimes that are being committed off the coast of Venezuela, which is a cover up. And you may go, well, what's the cover up of the cover up of the cover up of the cover up? Isn't this like a Russian nesting doll situation? Well, when your whole regime is not built on principle, when it is built on lies and all you do is lie, everything's a cover up of a cover up, because all you care about is stealing the wealth of the American people and taking and exploiting. And words don't matter. They're meaningless to an authoritarian regime. They are tools of deception. They are smokescreen and subterfuge in order to steal from you and take from you, to suck it up for themselves, because it's never enough for them. 10 private jets, 10 mansions, 10 Lamborghinis, whatever. It's not enough for them. They're only happy to see that you don't have a shred of happiness. That's what brings these sociopaths not joy, but get them off. Masochistic. The pain they see in you is the only thing that makes them feel, because it's never enough for them otherwise. So we, the people, have to recognize what it is that they are doing right now. We have to recognize their plan, and we have to recognize that they want to divide us, and we can't let them divide us, and we have to be united together. Okay? And it's Democrats, independents, Republicans. You hear what Trump's saying? He's saying there is no Second Amendment. He said it. You heard what Kristi Noem said and Stephen Miller said and all these sycophants in this. They say there's no Second Amendment. Is that enough for you? What about the fact that they say there's no First Amendment? Is that enough for you? What about the 10th Amendment, states' rights? Remember when they cared about that? Don't tread on me. Don't tread on me. Look at our snake logo. Ho, 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 snake flag. Don't tread on me. All they do is tread every day because they're predators. They want to tread on you. They want to tread on the rest of the world. They want to tread on Canada and Greenland and India and Europe and Africa and Mexico and Central America and South America and the Caribbean and Asia. These people just want to tread on you. They want to take and tread on you because they are predators. They are bad people. They are evil. That's it. Good versus evil. And what this regime is doing, the pain that they're inflicting, is evil. Evil. Speaking of which, I want to talk about Kristi Noem for a moment, because even though now the Trump regime says we've got rid of Greg Bovino, but then some people deny that they got rid of Bovino, but the reporting is they shut down his email. I mean, Bovino was the worst. He would literally himself throw the green carcinogenic gas into people's faces. What a sicko that guy was. He's the guy who wore that trench coat that looked like the SS outfit, and he would march in and he would be like, rock, paper, scissors, shoot, rock. He would like mock the people that he would terrorize and torture. He'd laugh in the faces of the 5-year-olds and the 2-year-olds that are being kidnapped. But it's not like an upgrade that you've got Kristi Noem is still in charge. Tom Homan, Mr. Kavabag, is now in Minnesota. It's not like Tom Homan is the voice of reason right now. Here's what Governor Walz said to me moments ago when I interviewed him before the show. Let's play it.
And now all of a sudden we get this. So yeah, it's the weirdest damn thing. I don't know what to tell you, but I think she probably should go back to South Dakota, not have any dogs, and just kind of ride things out.
Yeah. Let's take a look more from Donald Trump in Iowa right here. Donald Trump says that he thinks that he had the best polling numbers we've ever had, when we know his polling and approval is at an all-time low. Delusional, demented, cognitively impaired, a stain on our history, a stain on the world. Let's play Trump. Let's play this clip.
Well, they're not getting that anymore.
You were talking about the polls earlier. Clearly, your base is with you, strong and support. They're very
Stronger than, by the way, our base. Our base is with us. I think they're the best poll numbers. The real poll numbers, I think we have the best poll numbers we've ever had. Think of it, if I would have run again, would anybody be happy? So we have the best poll numbers we've ever had. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
So by the way, you take a look at that diner right there. Like, those are human beings in there who are clapping for the guy. It's a hard realization, even when you look at these numbers, that Trump's approval overall is at 38% right now. His approval on immigration is 39%. But if you think about it, I live in California, right, where his approval's 30% or something, 32%. That still means that 32% of the people in California see what you and I are seeing, and they're like, yeah, I like that. It's helpful. It's great stuff. I like the torture. I like the concentration camps. I'm into this stuff. 32% of, a country of over 300 million. I mean, that's a lot. It's still a lot of people. When you go to a restaurant and you look around and you're like, how many people in here support this stuff? How many people support ICE arresting refugees in Minnesota who are in the country legally, flying them to Texas, re-interviewing them, releasing them without any way to get home, with no cell phone, with no money, and just throwing them out on the streets? Like, who roots for that? Who roots for that, behavior right here? Look, when Donald Trump was asked by an ABC reporter about some of your own officials have labeled Alex Pretty a domestic terrorist, what's your response to that, Donald? Watch this. He just attacks the reporter. Let's play it.
President, some of your own administration officials have labeled Alex Pretty.
By the way, this is ABC fake news, this one. She hasn't asked me a good question in years. I think a nice woman, but I don't really like her too much. Go ahead. What'd you say? I'd say ABC's about as bad as they get.
And by the way, if you saw some of the people there, like, laughing at that, like they find that funny. And, I think what we all have to do right now is we just have to ask, why is that funny? Do we want our children and grandchildren to behave that way? If they're called on in class, do you want them to tell the teacher, I think you're a bad person. You're bad. I don't like your question. Wow, 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 wow. I mean, this behavior is objectively the behavior of a loser, And the fact that they were, out there trying to be like, well, this is This is alpha. This is how alpha men be. I'm like, this is the behavior of losers. And there have been so many leaders who have done such systemic harm to our country in normalizing this, using their position of leadership to remain silent, where silence is complicity, and using their positions to enable this because they don't like capitalism. They don't like competing. They like socialism for billionaires, not actually helping the American people. Another name for socialism for billionaires is called an oligarchy, a right-wing oligarchy, and that is what exists right now. That's what exists in Russia, where Putin picks his oligarchs. If you want to know why Russia's economy, frankly, is only about a $2.5 trillion GDP, and why their economy struggles, is that unlike America, where we used to foster diversity, entrepreneurial spirit, where we used to have free trade and innovation and all of that, in Russia, it's a demented person. Putin picks who his oligarchs are. The oligarchs have to say, yes, sir, you're great, sir, you're doing great, sir. And usually the only people who are willing to do that are stupid, are weak, or no longer feel that they can compete. And so they need to cement their authority and power by becoming part of an oligarchy. And that's not a system that we should want right here at all. Not at all. Take a look right here. Elizabeth Landers posted the following. I mean, just look at this. She writes, also something I noticed in the vestibule area that connects the West Wing to the residence that I hadn't seen before. A framed photo of Presidents Trump and Putin at their summer summit in Alaska. The lower photo is President Trump with one of his grandchildren. So the main photos that Donald Trump has in the West Wing area is a photo of himself standing side by side with America's biggest enemy, who's working to destroy America. And he has that above the photo of his grandkid right now. And I often ask, how is that not disqualifying? How is that not enough? Like just every little gesture. Vladimir Putin's photo above Trump and his grandchild in the West Wing of the Oval Office, as Putin is the biggest threat to our allies, frankly, to our country. And Donald Trump creates a fake board of peace, which is just a way that he can create alliances with authoritarians and undermine NATO and undermine the United Nations. He could take some of that money that he gets, put it in a Qatari bank account for himself, the same way the money from Venezuela oil sales that Donald Trump sends to, he has right-wing oligarchs buy oil from him in Venezuela. And then Donald Trump takes the money and puts it in a Qatari bank account for himself. A Qatari bank account for himself. And there's so much other stuff I could talk about too. I mean, Donald Trump told the protesters in Iran, go out there, protest. If one of you gets killed, we're going in guns a-blazing. We're going to help you, Iranian protesters. We're going to help you. Well, at this point, thousands of Iranian protesters were massacred. We didn't have the military resources in the Middle East area at all because they were in the Caribbean area. They were by Venezuela. And Donald Trump did not go in guns a-blazing. He may attack the Ayatollah right now, but Donald Trump, in my view, likes the Ayatollah. He likes authoritarians. As long as he can control the authoritarians, he likes authoritarians more than pro-democracy people. And what would Donald Trump say 2 weeks ago? He said it was a very respectful move that the Ayatollah agreed not to hang 700 additional protesters in Iran. And who knows if they've been hung now or not. But that's what Donald Trump said he got, that he saved 700 protesters from being hung, saying that he would go in guns a-blazing. What about the Kurds in northern Syria, right? Donald Trump loves al-Jilani, who now goes by the name of al-Shahar, who's the leader of Syria, former leader of al-Qaeda, goes to the Oval Office. Trump treats the former leader of al-Qaeda better than he treats Zelensky. And like Donald Trump seemed like actually attracted to the leader of Syria, sprayed him with perfume, sniffed him, said how handsome he was. True story. I'm not making that up. Sniffed him, sprayed perfume. You smell really good. You like my perfume? You're really handsome. You're really handsome there, al-Jilani. And the Syrian forces basically took over the semi-autonomous regions in northern Syria that were being operated by the Kurds in a democratic way, in a pro-democracy way. And the Kurds fought along our side in order to fight against ISIS. And Trump turned his back against the Kurds. You know, and that's why you're looking, though, across the world of these other international alliances that are forming. And it's frankly really, really despicable. And while all of this is happening too, you know, you have these MAGA influencers out there like this guy, Scott Press. I don't even know what world these people are living in. Like, I swear sometimes I'm like, the hell is going on here? This is a big MAGA influencer. His name is Scott Pressler. He's very high up in the Trump hierarchy. This is who they talk about as being alpha men right here. And this is what he says. When Democrats try to insult me by saying I look like Brooke Shields, I take that as a huge compliment. I think she's gorgeous. Wearing a shirt that says sweet spirit. And this is, you know, what are you talking? What you think this is funny? Like, you think this is a game right here? I mean, this is what MAGA views as tough, right? That's what MAGA views as you know, as alpha. That's what MAGA views as this is what we want. What's going on? You know, what is going on here? Oh, there's people dying in the streets, and you're talking about Brooke Shields, and they got Melania. Melania's on Fox promoting her movie and saying it was so wonderful to be with world leaders on Saturday. Well, let's listen to Melania right here. Here, play this clip of Melania.
It was wonderful to have so many world leaders with me on Saturday from all different fields. And we were celebrating it, and the reception of the movie, of the film, was very warm.
Like what? What are you talking about? The reception of the film was warm. Dude, no one wants to see your story. No one cares. We know that you're evil. We know that you've lied about your background. You said you've graduated from colleges that you didn't graduate from. You said it's great when Donald Trump says that he grabs women's vaginas without their consent. You said that's locker room talk. Said that's locker room talk. That's how men behave, is what you said. No one wants to hear your story. And this is what Fox is pushing out right now. And again, could you imagine if Dr. Jill Biden was like, and I'm promoting my movie right now. I want you all to watch it. And it's about me, and it's called Jill. Come on. And I'm sure by now you've all seen this story from New York Magazine. I'm going to be interviewing Ben Meiselas. I think I have an interview with him on Thursday. I'm excited for that interview. He wrote a great story about Donald. He focused on Donald Trump's deteriorating health. It was called The Superhuman President, a good faith attempt to ascertain the truth about Donald Trump's health. So Ben Meiselas gets access to the Oval Office. He's interviewing Donald Trump. And he says, this is what Donald Trump said to him. My father had one problem, Trump said. He started getting, what do they call it? He pointed to his forehead and looked to his press secretary for the word that escaped him. Alzheimer's, Levitt said. Like an Alzheimer's thing, Trump said. Well, I don't have it. And then you had Trump's doctors were in the Oval Office. And one of the things that the reporter says is, he says that that one of the doctors, Jones, worked from 2009 to 2018 as a senior medical leader in the White House. At the end of his presidency, Barack Obama, a fitness fanatic, rumored to allow himself precisely 7 almonds a night, was 55 years old. Who is healthier, Obama or President Trump, I asked. Trump stared across the desk, making eye contact with Jones. Jones didn't hesitate. President Trump, he said. Trump nodded. There was no sign of a smile, as if there could not have been any other answer to that question. How about this from Ben's article? When I arrived at the Oval Office in December to talk to Donald Trump about his health, the president was standing next to a couple of men clutching pieces of paper labeled talking points. These are 2 doctors, Trump told me before I could ask a question. And by the way, I don't know them. They're not my best friends. They're respected doctors that practice out of Walter Reed. And they happen to be taking care of me for anything. But I don't need any taking care of because I'm in perfect health. I do purposefully every year or less a physical because I think the American people should know that the president is healthy. That you don't get a guy like the last one who was the worst thing that ever happened to older people. Because I know people in their 90s that are 100%. Gary Player is 90 years old. He shot a 70 with me the other day. Trump gestured at everyone present, me, the doctors, and Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, to follow him into the room. Let's sit for a couple of minutes, he said. I hate to waste a lot of time on this, but if you're going to write a bad story about my health, I'm going to sue the ass off of New York Magazine. There will be a time when you can write that story, maybe in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 5 years. No one is going to care, I guess. Go ahead and sit down. Then he points to his hand. This is only from shaking hands, he said, rubbing his left thumb over the back of his right hand, a claim he would repeat to other journalists. Can you just verify that? He says to a doctor, Captain Sean Barbarella, his lead physician, and Colonel James Jones, a physician assistant, he said that he did this because he would shake lots of people's hands. Then Dr. Barbarella says, absolutely, said Barbarella, a short man with close cropped hair and a nervous smile. I've seen the president shaking hands for over an hour. Trump held up his non-shaking hand. Look, this one's perfect, he said. People say, what beautiful skin you have. The White House said the bruise that appeared on his left hand in Davos was caused by him hitting against a table corner. Trump also blamed women's fingernails and rings for the cuts on his right hand, including one particularly nasty slice that came from a botched high five with Attorney General Pam Bondi. This is utterly deranged stuff, folks. Utterly deranged stuff. So, few things. Number one, become a member of our YouTube channel if you can. Hit subscribe right now. You may think you're subscribed, but you may not actually be subscribed. So double check that you're actually subscribed to our YouTube channel and become a member right now. Click join, become a member of our YouTube channel, and you can give subscriptions to others. This has helped us grow our independent media platform thanks to you. More people watch the MeidasTouch network than Fox, CBS, or any other cable or corporate news network. And we've grown thanks to you. So please, if you can, hit subscribe, join, become a member. You can check out our Substack as well, MeidasPlus.com, MeidasPlus.com, and you could subscribe there. Store.MeidasTouch.com, that's where all the MeidasTouch merch is. So if you want MeidasTouch gear, go to store.MeidasTouch.com. You can wear your MeidasTouch gear proudly. We also have products made exclusively in Canada for our Canadian fans, the Midas Maple, who are boycotting in the United States. So we have 100% made in Canada stuff. That's the Midas Maple stuff. And then we have stuff here in the USA that's made 100% union made in the United States. So check that out. Also, the intersection tonight with Michael Popak is at 5 p.m. Pacific or 5 p.m. Eastern. When is it, Jeremy? It's at 5 p.m. Pacific. 5 p.m. Pacific. The intersection with Michael Popak at 5 p.m. Pacific. Well, yeah, it wouldn't be Eastern because that would be now. 5 p.m. Pacific. So thanks everybody for watching. We appreciate you. I hope you like the new format. Ben on breaking news. Shout out to everybody who's watching and shout out to the Meidas Mighty. Thanks everybody.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.